Hey y'all, welcome back to our latest edition of our Wednesday night Bible study. I appreciate y'all watching. I want to thank you for the encouragement I've gotten, messages from you. It means a lot. Just point out again that I'm learning a lot more than you all are in these videos. Tonight we will go over Revelation chapter 14. We're still in the vision of the persecuting dragon. It started in chapter 12 when we had the beast, when we had the dragon trying to devour the man-child of the woman, right? And of course, the man-child was Christ. The dragon is the devil, and the woman was the church. Specifically, I think more like the Old Testament church, because that's Christ came from that. He was unsuccessful, so he began persecuting the woman and the rest of her offspring, which would be the Christian church. Then chapter 13, we were introduced to the two beasts. The first was the beast out of the sea. We said this stood for anti-Christian government that persecuted the Christians and the Lord's church. And the beast from the earth, and we said that stood for anti-Christian religion, apostate church, the apostate church, false prophets, false religion that persecuted Christians and tried to sway men's minds to worship the first beast. So that gets us to chapter 14. Also, remember we said the mark of the beast. We talked about it last week a little bit at the end of chapter 13, that was basically anyone who worshipped the beast received the mark of the beast, right? That those two are linked. Also remember, we said, as we go through these parallel visions, all of them span the same amount of time, which is the current dispensation. That as we get closer to the end of Revelation, that the focal point of these visions moves closer and closer to Judgment Day. And as such, in chapter 14, we get the most descriptive vision of Judgment Day so far in the book. So let's go ahead and read this together and we'll get started. Thou looked, and behold, a Lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written on their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven, like the voice of many waters, and like the voice of loud thunder. And I heard the sound of harpists playing their harps. They sang as it were a new song before the throne, before the four living creatures and the elders. And no one could learn that song except the 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth. These are the ones who were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These were redeemed from among men, being first fruits to God and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no deceit, for they are without fault before the throne of God. Then I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on the earth, to every nation, tribe, tongue, and people, saying with a loud voice, Fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come, and worship him who made heaven and earth, the sea, and springs of water. And another angel followed, saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she has made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Then a third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If anyone worships the beast in his image, and receives his mark on his forehead or on his hand, he himself shall also drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out full strength into the cup of his indignation. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascends forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, who worship the beast in his image, and whoever receives the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are those who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. Then I heard a voice from heaven saying to me, Write, Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. Yes, says the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their work follows them. Then I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and on the cloud sat one like the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him who sat on the cloud, Thrust in your sickle and reap, for the time has come for you to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. So he who sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle of the earth, and the earth was reaped. Then another angel came out of the temple which is in heaven, he also having a sharp sickle. And another angel came out from the altar, who had power over fire, and he cried with a loud cry to him who had the sharp sickle, saying, Thrust in your sharp sickle, and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. So the angel thrust his sickle into the earth, and gathered the vine of the earth, and threw it into the great winepress of the wrath of God. And the winepress was trampled outside the city, and blood came out of the winepress up to the horses' bridles for 1,600 furlongs. All right. I want to make one note. I was reading I'll get to it when I get to that verse. We'll talk about it a little bit then. But this was in the New King James Version. All right. So, first verse, John sees the Lamb standing on Mount Zion. This is not, in the Old Testament, Mount Zion was also often Jerusalem was often referred to as Mount Zion in Jewish poetry. But that's not the Zion he's talking about here. Here, John's talking about the Zion that cannot be moved, but abides forever. That's from Psalms 125, verse 1. Hebrews 12 calls it the heavenly Jerusalem. And in verse 2, we see that this solidifies that he's talking about heaven, because John hears the voice from heaven. All right, and with the Lamb, Christ, we see, John sees the 144,000. No doubt these are the same 144,000 from the vision of chapter 7. Remember when we went over that, we said those represent the church on earth, but here they're in heaven. And they're with Christ. The first part of this vision, consisting of verses 1 through 5, are proleptic. We talked about that. Proleptic meaning speaking as prophesying a future event, speaking in it of it, as it has already happened, as if it has already happened. All right. These first 5 verses are anticipatory of Christ's victory, right? Of his final victory, and they can be anticipatory of his final victory because that victory is assured. And that similar to in chapter 12, right, when the heavenly host sang after Satan had been cast down to earth in that battle in heaven, right? They sang as if he had already seen his final defeat. Now it says those 144,000 had his father's name written on their forehead. This is this likely refers to a spiritual likeness. Next couple of verses, verses 2 and 3, this 144,000, this large number, they sing as one voice, one really loud, powerful voice. It says it's as the voice of many waters, and like the voice of loud thunder. If you ever stood next to a waterfall of any size whatsoever, you can almost feel how loud it is. I think that's kind of the vision that we have here. But not only is it loud, but it's melodious and lovely, as it says in the end of verse 2. The New King James says, "And I heard the sound of harpists playing on their harp," but the literal translation was, it was a voice as the sound of harpists playing on their harp, meaning as a melodious voice, lovely, soft, and sweet, even though it was really loud. The song, verse 3, the song they sang, it's a new song before the throne. Why is it a new song? Because this is a brand new experience, right? They have been redeemed from the earth. And only the redeemed can sing this song. Only the redeemed can learn the words of this song. Only the undefiled and righteous can rejoice in life eternal. Okay, the last clause, verse 3, proves that this 144,000 referred to all the redeemed, because it says, "And the 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth." This is not a special class of Christians, you know. Some believe like this is just the martyrs, but this is all Christians, all the redeemed. We've all been purchased from the earth. And notice also in that last clause the word choice. Remember in chapter 13, it ended talking about the mark of the beast, that those who didn't have the mark of the beast wouldn't be allowed to buy or sell. Well, that's all right, because we've been purchased out of the earth by the blood of Christ. On in verse 4, the 144,000 are described even further here. These are the ones not defiled with women, for they are virgins. This, of course, means that they have not committed spiritual fornication. They didn't bow to the beast or his image, or fall to the seduction of Babylon. They remain pure to Christ. They endured. It says these are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes, and they were purchased from the earth to be the first fruits unto God and the Lamb. Under the old law, right, the Israelites, the first fruits of the harvest belonged to God, right? They were given to God, and the Israelites, they could do with whatever they wanted to with what was left. But here, the redeemed, we are the first fruits of God. We belong to God in Christ. And once again, these first fruits isn't like for in a sequence, you know. These redeemed will be taken up to heaven first, and then later on some other people are going to be saved. No, that's not the case here at all. It's not referred to a special number of the saved. The contrast here isn't between the 144,000 and others yet to be saved. The contrast is between the 144,000, the redeemed, the ones purchased from the earth, and the unredeemed, those, the rest of earth who are lost. Verse 4 goes on to say that no lie was found in their mouth. Beyond just honesty and integrity, they weren't tricked by Satan's lies. They are without blemish. Verse 5 says, King James says but they were without fault before the throne of God. I think the ESV says they're without blemish. But right, not from their own doing. Right, these are the same number from Division chapter 7. If you recall, they were the ones that washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Right, it's the blood of the Lamb that removes the blemishes. All right, on to verse 6, we have. It takes us back to the conditions on earth before the final judgment, before the day of judgment. John sees three angels over the next few verses, and their purpose is to warn mankind of the coming judgment, and steer them toward repentance. The first angel in verses 6 and 7, he proclaims the gospel worldwide, right? Says, having the everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on the earth, to every nation, tribe, tongue, and people. His announcement in the angel's announcement in verse 7, saying, "Fear God and give glory to Him, for the hour of His judgment has come." This indicates that the spreading of the gospel, the good news, has concluded. It's been spread worldwide. Jesus himself said in Matthew 24:14, "And this whole gospel of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come." The last few verses of the last few chapters of Matthew really help, if you study those, really help with the understanding of Revelation. When especially Jesus spoke to the disciples on the Mount of Olives. Going down in verse 8, the second angel proclaims the fall of Babylon. So Hendrickson, one of my go-tos for this study, he sees Babylon as the world center, as the world center of seduction. Basically, like all the seduction of the world signified into one city. Now Kaufman is the other guy, my other go-to. He sees it. It's kind of similar but different. He sees it as the symbol of pagan empires. When John wrote this, he said Rome was in view, talking about Babylon. Now, one quick note about the main differences in their interpretation. Hendrickson, he doesn't believe the symbols, the various symbols, signs, bowls, trumpets, what have you, referred to specific events, but to a general principle or general principles that are operating throughout the history of the world, especially during the Christian dispensation. For whatever reason, he's reticent to assign actual historical events to any symbol. He doesn't acknowledge any fulfillment of the prophecy, not the fulfillment, but a fulfillment, like we've talked about in the past. Now Kaufman, while he's of the same parallel interpretation that Hendrickson has, and that a single event doesn't fulfill a prophecy or one of the symbols, but that several events, throughout history have fulfilled these symbols. Excuse me. But he's much more outspoken on acknowledging the fulfillments of these prophecies. You know, for example, when we talked about the beast from the earth in chapter 12, Hendrickson, he goes out of his way not to mention any false religion. You know, they both acknowledge or agree that the beast from the earth represents false religion. Henderson goes out of his way not to mention a specific one. Kaufman lays out all these examples why, the early Roman Catholic Church was a manifestation of the beast of the earth. Now, he doesn't say it's the fulfillment of that vision, but it's a fulfillment, right? All right. So both also back to verse 8. Both agree that this is also proleptic. That that this angel is speaking as if the fall of Babylon has occurred, but it's a future fall. And I said Henderson sees Babylon as this world as center of seduction. I can't talk tonight. Kaufman, he sees this, or he almost equates this with the beast of the sea, anti-Christian government. If you remember back to Revelation chapter 11, in the vision of the two witnesses, and we had the city, said a tenth of the city, after the earthquake came, a tenth of the city collapsed. I think we kind of have the same picture in view here. The collapse of urban civilization as opposed to God will occur at the very end, or prior to the very end anyway. And in regards to the wine of the wrath of her fornication, Mr. Ladd wrote, "This combines two ideas, the wine used to intoxicate and to seduce to fornication, and the wine of God's wrath. Babylon had deceived and seduced all nations by the enticement of her wealth and luxuries, but this cup will turn out to be the cup of God's wrath." Okay, so into verse 9. Kaufman saw the fall of Babylon as the fall of pagan empires, and he sees the last of these three angels as the fall of the second beast, the beast from the earth. Of course, the pagan empires would be the beast from the sea. Henderson kind of sees them as three separate helpers to Satan. You have the beast of the earth, beast of the sea, and Babylon. But Kaufman sees Babylon as another image of the beast from the sea. All right, so the third angel comes and warns that if anyone worships the beast in his image and receives his mark on his forehead, he himself will drink of the wine of the wrath of God. Both the fall of the first and the second beast are connected to the final judgment. As we said last week and when we first started this lesson, that worshiping the beast is linked with receiving the wrath, or receiving the mark of the beast. That's the true mark of a beast. No literal mark about it. Notice we said that the 144,000 had the Lord's name on their forehead. We said that was a spiritual likeness. Again, here they have the mark, the beast mark on their forehead. This is a spiritual likeness of the beast. But notice it says they received the mark of his name. If you remember when we talked about the dragon, it said the dragon was given things. God allowed the dragon certain powers on earth, right? The beast was given a mouth to devour. Again, God allows that. But here it says, if you worship the beast, you receive it. This indicates a individual responsibility, right? For if no one making man worship the beast. And also, last week we went over how the beast would kill those that wouldn't worship its image. And here we have an angel of God proclaiming that those who do worship the beast will drink of the wine of the wrath of God and will be tormented with fire and brimstone for eternity. So it may seem like evil wins, right? When as we just take a look around at what's going on, it seems almost like evil is rewarded, but in the end it won't be, right? We will be rewarded, evil will be punished, and we'll have a heavenly home with Christ. And in verse 10 it says they'll be tormented in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. This seems to indicate divine approval of their punishment, right? This can be a tough verse for many people. But as we said, I don't know, a handful of times when we gone over the study, Jesus spoke of righteous judgment coming to the earth as much as he spoke of anything else. Eternal punishment of the wicked isn't just righteous, but necessary from a holy God, right? He sent a rejection of his son that he sent to the earth to die for us. A rejection of that demands punishment. So verse 12, here is the patience of the saints. If eternal torment in hell awaits the wicked, as Christians we must endure. And so, we must keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. Your translation may have faith in Jesus. It is the faith of Jesus. And there is a difference. It means to keep the religion of Christ. It's faithful obedience, right? Even the demons believe in Jesus, but it's faithful obedience. Verse 13, Kaufman had a really good note on this verse. He says this. He said, "This is one of the great doctrinal pronouncements of the whole New Testament. It declares, 'Blessed are those who meet death in spiritual union with Jesus Christ.'" He goes on to say that there is not another verse in the whole New Testament that any more concisely concentrates into so brief a statement the entire theology of redemption that is affected here. It's a pretty good synopsis there. It says, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord. In the Lord, that means what? His spiritual body, right? The church. You die in his spiritual body. Romans 6:3, Galatians 3:27, 1 Corinthians 12:13 tells us that we're baptized into his body. Sorry, my camera keeps leaning a little bit. Maybe better. And no one ever died in the Lord who wasn't already in him before he or she died, indicating faithfulness unto death. And we've talked about this in the past. Yes, it means faithfulness until you die, being faithful all the way till you die. But it also means being faithful if death is a consequence of your faithfulness, right? Being faithful if it means you will die for your faith. It says their works follow them. This stresses the need for an obedient faith. Now, from verse 14 to the end of the chapter, we have a picture of Judgment Day. We have the harvest of the elect and the harvest of the wicked. So we have one like the Son of Man sitting on a white cloud. This can be no other than nobody else but Jesus, right? White cloud refers to, or is a symbol for purity. White symbol for purity. Sickle is a symbol of judgment. John 5 verse 27 tells us that God gave Christ authority to execute judgment because he is the Son of Man. And here he doesn't wear a crown of thorns, right? But a golden crown. The Greek word for crown here, Stephanos, refers to the victor's crown. And I apologize for this. It's kind of flimsy. Thank you. So in verse 15, an angel tells the Lord to send forth his sickle and reap. So is an angel giving Christ orders here? Of course not, right? An angel is merely a messenger of God. This message comes from God. It says, the time has come, the harvest is ripe. And this harmonizes with Matthew chapter 24, verse 36, when Jesus said, "But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father alone." So God tells the angel to tell Christ it's time. And Christ here, verse 16 separates the wheat from the chaff. Verse 17, the harvest of the wicked is done by two angels. It's carried out by two angels. One comes from the temple in heaven. He has the sickle, and another emerges from the altar. All right, let's go all the way back to chapter 8 for a moment. Remember, there's an angel at the altar before God, and he had a censer that had incense, and it was the prayers of the saints, right? And the prayers of the saints, they were asking God, when will he avenge their blood? And does any of that ring a bell? We said that those prayers seem to set those 7 judgments of the trumpets in motion, right? And right after that, the angel filled his censer with fire and slung it to the earth, and then here came the vision of the trumpets. So here, this angel that came from the altar, he says he has the power of fire. Power over fire. This is, at least symbolically, the same angel we're talking about. And here is God's final answer of those prayers of the saints. And in this judgment of the wicked, we get the imagery of the wine press. Probably because, the bloodiness of it. The angel gathers the grapes of the earth, the unrighteous, and throws them into the wine press of God. The wine press is trodden outside the city of God, not Jerusalem, but the heavenly city. whose builder and architect is God. And blood flows from this wine press 1,600 furlongs out. I don't know if it's just in a straight line, a diameter of a bloody pond, but it's all the way up to a horse's bridle. Of course, this is all symbolism. But the 1,600 furlongs, we've said, I think, I don't know what chapter we talked about this, but the number 4 often represents the earth, the 4 corners, all that good stuff. And the number 10 is an earthly completeness, right? 7 is like a divine completeness. 10 represents earthly completeness. So to get the 1,600, 4 times 4 times 10 times 10, this indicates just total destruction of the earth and the total complete judgment of the earth and the absolute destruction of the wicked. All right, well, that's all we have for chapter 14. I really hope you got something out of it. As always, you can ask a question. Hey, if I got something wrong, let me know. I want to know if I got something wrong. I'm just a man. The guy who wrote this book is just a man. The guy who wrote Kaufman they're just men, But so if I got something wrong, please let me know. You won't be the first, I promise. Next week we'll start we'll try to do 15 and 16 together because 15 is pretty short. We'll start talking about the bowls of wrath. Another vision, another parallel vision as we get closer and closer to the end of this book. But anyway, thanks for watching and God bless.